Among the towering skyscrapers of Manhattan, New York, stood one of America's most prestigious companies, Anderson Global Holdings. The glass-covered building reflected the morning sunlight like a symbol of success itself. Inside, hundreds of young professionals filled the waiting lounge, each hoping to land a life-changing job. Expensive suits, polished shoes, luxury watches, and confident smiles were everywhere. Every candidate carried dreams of success, fears of failure, and hopes for a brighter future.
Yet among the crowd sat one man who seemed completely out of place. His name was Ethan Carter. His clothes were simple. His shoes were worn from years of use. His hair was slightly untidy, and his face carried the marks of countless struggles. But despite his appearance, there was something powerful in his eyes, an unshakable determination that could not be bought with money. Without saying a word, Ethan simply showed his interview invitation. The guard's smile faded, and he allowed him to enter. Now Ethan sat quietly in a corner while the other candidates talked and compared resumes. Across the room sat Sophia Mitchell, one of the company's senior recruitment managers. She wore a perfectly tailored business suit and carried herself with complete confidence. As her eyes landed on Ethan, she exchanged amused glances with her colleagues. "Looks like someone walked into the wrong building," one of them joked. Sophia smiled. "Or maybe he's here for a tour." Laughter followed. Ethan heard every word, but remained silent. He had learned long ago that arguing with people rarely changed their minds. Success did. A few moments later, a voice echoed through the waiting area. "Candidate number 27, Ethan Carter." Ethan stood and walked toward the interview room. Inside sat 3 interviewers. At the center was Sophia Mitchell. She opened Ethan's file and immediately frowned. No college degree. She flipped another page. Very little corporate experience. Another page. A history of temporary jobs. Laughter followed. Sophia leaned back in her chair. "So, tell us, Ethan, why should Anderson Global Holdings hire you?" A few smiles appeared around the table. Ethan looked directly at her. "Because I can do things that people with degrees often spend years only talking about." The room became quiet. Sophia raised an eyebrow. "Confidence is good," she said, "but this company doesn't run on dreams." Ethan nodded. "Neither does it run on arrogance." The atmosphere instantly changed. Nobody spoke. Sophia slowly closed the file. "Thank you, Ethan. You may leave." Ethan stood and walked toward the door. Before leaving, he turned around one last time. Sometimes, the people everyone looks down on become the people everyone works for. Then, he walked out. Outside the building, Ethan sat alone on a bench overlooking a busy Manhattan street. For the first time all day, disappointment appeared on his face. He opened his folder. Inside was an old photograph. A smiling woman looked back at him. His mother, Mary Carter. At that moment, his phone rang. The screen displayed a familiar word. "Mom." He answered immediately. "Hey, Mom." Her voice sounded weak but cheerful. "How did the interview go, sweetheart?" Ethan looked at the massive building behind him. A lump formed in his throat. "It went well, Mom." "Really?" "Yeah, I think I have a chance." A smile filled her voice. "I prayed all morning for you." Tears gathered in Ethan's eyes. "Thanks, Mom." After ending the call, he sat silently for a moment before standing and walking away.
Back inside the interview room, Sophia remained seated. Something about Ethan continued to bother her. Eventually, she reopened his file. A folded letter slipped out. Curious, she unfolded it. The letter began, "My name is Mary Carter, Ethan's mother." As Sophia continued reading, her expression slowly changed. Mary explained how Ethan had once been an excellent student, but had left college when medical bills became impossible to afford. She described years of sacrifice, night shifts, warehouse work, delivery jobs, and construction labor. Ethan had done everything he could to keep food on the table and pay for her treatment. The final sentence hit Sophia hardest. If my son receives an opportunity, it will not only change his life, it may save ours. Sophia slowly. At that exact moment, a black Cadillac Escalade entered the company parking lot. The atmosphere throughout the building changed instantly. Employees stood straighter. Managers adjusted their jackets. Conversations stopped. The company's founder and CEO had arrived, William Anderson. Minutes later, he entered the interview room. Everyone stood. "Good morning, sir." As he reviewed the candidates' files, his hand suddenly stopped. Ethan Carter. He opened the folder and read silently. Then he looked up. Who is Ethan Carter? Sophia hesitated. He was a candidate, sir. Was? We rejected him. William's eyes narrowed. Why? He lacks qualifications. The CEO slowly closed the file. And what about character? The room became silent. William leaned forward. This morning, I watched a young man's. Nobody spoke. You searched for credentials, William said. I searched for leadership. He stood up. Call him back immediately. Across Manhattan, Ethan's phone suddenly rang. Unknown number. He answered. Hello? Mr. Carter, this is Anderson Global Holdings. We need you to return to the office immediately. Ethan froze. Why? Less than 30 minutes later, Ethan returned to Anderson Global Holdings. This time, the same security guard who had laughed at him earlier quickly opened the door. Welcome back, Mr. Carter. Ethan noticed the sudden change, but said nothing. Inside, employees who had ignored him before now stared with curiosity. Some even greeted him politely. He was escorted directly to the executive floor, a place most employees never visited. When the elevator doors opened, Ethan found himself standing in front of a large office overlooking Manhattan. The receptionist smiled. Mr. Anderson will see you now. Ethan entered. Behind a massive wooden desk sat William Anderson himself. The billionaire businessman stood and extended his hand. Thank you for coming back, Ethan. Ethan shook his hand. You wanted to see me, sir? William gestured toward a chair. Please sit. For several moments, neither man spoke. Then William placed Ethan's file on the desk. You know, he said, I built this company from a one-room office. Ethan listened carefully. I had no wealthy family, no powerful connections, just determination. William smiled. That's why your story caught my attention. Ethan looked surprised. My story? William nodded. Most people in this building saw your clothes. I saw your actions. William opened a drawer and pulled out a photograph. It showed a much younger version of himself standing beside an elderly man. "This man changed my life," William said. "He gave me my first opportunity when nobody else believed in me." Ethan studied the picture. What happened to him? William's expression softened. "He taught me something I never forgot." What was that? William leaned forward. Skills can be taught. At that moment, there was a knock on the door. Sophia Mitchell entered. She looked uncomfortable. For perhaps the first time in years, she wasn't confident. William motioned for her to sit. She faced Ethan. "I owe you an apology." Ethan remained silent. Sophia took a deep breath. "I judged you before I knew anything about you." The room became quiet. "I saw your appearance and assumed I understood your value." Ethan looked at her calmly. "You weren't the first person to do that." Sophia lowered her eyes. "And that doesn't make it right." After a long pause, Ethan nodded. Apology accepted. Relief appeared on Sophia's face. William watched the exchange carefully. A small smile appeared on his lips. Leadership, he thought, isn't about power. It's about grace. William then slid a document across the desk. Ethan looked down. His eyes widened. It was an employment contract. "Sir," William raised a hand. "Read the title." Ethan did. Management Development Program, Executive Track. His heart nearly stopped. This wasn't an ordinary entry-level position. It was one of the company's most competitive leadership programs. "I don't understand," Ethan admitted. "There are candidates far more qualified than me." William shook his head. "On paper, perhaps." He pointed toward the city outside. "Every year, thousands of people apply here. Many have degrees, many have experience, many know how to impress an interviewer." Then he looked directly into Ethan's eyes. "But very few know how to sacrifice for others when nobody is watching." Ethan stared at the contract. For years, he had worked endless jobs. Construction sites, warehouses, delivery routes, night shifts, all while caring for his mother. And now, suddenly, everything seemed possible. His voice trembled. "Is this real?" William laughed. Tears filled Ethan's eyes. The first person he thought about wasn't himself. It was his mother, Mary, the woman who had sacrificed everything for him long before he had sacrificed anything for her. He reached for his phone. "May I make a call?" William smiled. "Of course." A few seconds later, Mary answered. "Hello, sweetheart?" Ethan couldn't speak. "Ethan?" Still nothing. Concern entered her voice. "What happened?" Finally, he managed to whisper. "Mom, I got the job." Silence. Then came the sound of quiet crying. "Oh, thank God." Ethan wiped his eyes. No more hospital bills alone. No more choosing between medicine and groceries. No more. Across the room, Sophia looked away, fighting back tears of her own. William stood by the window. Sometimes success wasn't measured in profits. Sometimes it was measured in moments like this. After the call ended, Ethan signed the contract. His hand shook as he wrote his... 6 months later, Anderson Global Holdings was thriving.
Among the company's rising young leaders, one name stood out: Ethan Carter. Not because he was the loudest, not because he was the smartest, but because people trusted him. Employees respected him. Managers listened to him. And customers remembered him. His humility never changed. Neither did his work ethic. One morning, Ethan walked through the company lobby and noticed a nervous young applicant sitting alone in a corner. His suit was old, his shoes were worn. Several candidates nearby were quietly laughing at him. The scene felt strangely familiar. Ethan walked over. "First interview?" The young man nodded. "I'm terrified." Ethan smiled. "So was I." The applicant looked confused. "You?" Ethan sat beside him. "Let me tell you a secret." The young man listened carefully. "Never let other people's opinions become your limits." The applicant smiled nervously. Ethan stood. "And remember something else." "What?" Ethan glanced around the crowded lobby. "The person everyone ignores today may become the person everyone admires tomorrow." The young man nodded. For the first time that morning, confidence appeared in his eyes. Later that evening, Ethan visited his mother's home. Mary was healthier now, stronger, recovering. Together they sat on the porch watching the sunset. "Are you happy?" she asked. Ethan smiled. "Yes." Mary squeezed his hand. "I always knew you would succeed." Ethan looked toward the horizon. Success, he realized, wasn't the job. It wasn't the office. It wasn't the salary. Success was having the chance to help the people who never stopped believing in you. And as the sun disappeared beyond the skyline, Ethan understood something he would carry for the rest of his life. The world may judge you by your appearance, but your character will determine your future.